morning, good morning. She is alive, fellas. What is happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video with your boy Thick Whips. Today we are heading to a car show, Cars and Coffee in Charlotte. As you can see, we got the E36 M3 today. She is alive and, well, I guess you can say she's okay. She drives fine for like the road, and she's just not quite set up yet for track again. Still got to take care of the issues. There's just a lot of things with this car that, you know, when I first went out on the track, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit just to see if we could get through a track day. But I kind of knew that there was a lot of stuff yet to be finished on this car. And there is a huge list of stuff that we're doing at CES Motorsports. So I'm kind of waiting to track this car again until we do everything. Sort of learn my lesson. But yeah, you guys, one of the most common questions that I've been getting, honestly, ever since I sold it, is do I regret selling the M2? Do I miss the M2? So many people on every single platform. I think people just really loved that car. I mean, I liked it too. I thought it was a great car. My short answer, if it were a competition, like an M2 comp, then I probably would have missed it. But I don't so much miss the N55. It was a great car. Like, if you're on a budget and you want an M car, that's a fantastic car because it's relatively cheap. And it handles super good. And it's manual. But looking back at it, if I could do it all over again, I probably would have just gone with the competition, just because of the platform. Being that it has the S55, there's so much more capability with that engine. The N55 is pretty tough to make a lot of power with. Like your N30, dude. There's nothing wrong with the N55. Like, the N55 is a great platform, and I know a lot of people that are making really good power on it. But when it comes down to my preference, I probably would have preferred the S55. But that's why we own these cars. That's why we go through the motions of owning these cars, because we get to experience them and see if they're for us. Honestly, I would love to own an M2 comp someday, because I really enjoyed the styling and the handling and just the overall way that the M2 drove was really, really good. For the money, that's probably one of the best M cars you can buy, to be honest. It's also not like it would be difficult to rebuild that car. Like, I know exactly what I would do to it. I know exactly how I would do it because I pretty much did it already. However, there are some things that I would definitely do differently. Like, I wouldn't go with the KW Haas kit because I kind of cheaped out on that. I would definitely go with the KW V3 coilover kit like I have on this car and like I have on my Supra, just because it's far superior, much better handling, much better ride quality. But yeah, we're pulling up the show now. We'll talk a little bit more after the show about the M2. Yo, James, what's good, bro?
Them velocity ends, bro. Tell them. Y'all need to let them know down in the comments. Velocity ends ain't nothing to sleep on, bro. I'm telling you, they lightweight.
Good time. A lot of cool cars, man. A lot of cool cars. A lot of people showing love. The E36. Love to see it. So yeah, man. I mean, the M2, easily one of my favorite cars. But like I said, I just wish that I had. You can't say you wish, right? You don't want to like stand in regret. But it would have been nice to experience that car with the S55 platform, because I kind of feel like I capped out a little bit. I mean, obviously I didn't get into fueling, which is really what you need in the N55. So had I done it differently, I probably would have done a better suspension setup, because with the Haas kit, you're still using those stock struts and shocks, and they just doesn't last the best. But if you're on a budget, that's probably like the best, one of the best M platforms that you can own. So if I took another crack at an N55 one, I mean, I definitely would have addressed the fueling like flat out in the beginning. There was a lot of little things that I threw on that car that probably just weren't that necessary. A lot of pipes that I replaced that probably didn't need to be replaced. You know what I mean? You just kind of get caught up in like adding everything that you can add to these cars. It's sometimes, some of it's a little bit redundant. So for sure, the fueling would have been like one of the first things that I would have done had I known. But that's why we own these cars. That's why we go through these experiences, because we learn. And the next time we build it, we have the blueprint. We know what to do. We learn from our mistakes. However, since then, I have driven a couple of M2 competitions, one DCT and one manual, and it's just such a sick car, man. I feel like for the money, it's one of the best M cars that you can buy, if not the best M car that you can buy. There's something about that F-Series chassis where you're still retaining some of the rigidity and that connection that we had in the older BMWs, but you're still getting a little bit of that like futuristic tech. The M2 didn't feel too modern, like it didn't feel overdone. Still a lot of rawness to that car, and you still felt very connected to the car on the road. So I don't know if I'd say like I regret selling it. I don't really regret like any of the decisions that I make with these cars, and at the end of the day, if I ever want to rebuild them, I know I can rebuild them. Do I miss the car? Sometimes I miss the car. I mean, I miss all of my cars sometimes. Like the E90 M3, I miss that car all the time. But as you guys have heard me talk about it before, you know, I can't own 30 cars. I can't own 10 cars. I don't have the place for that. Someday maybe I will, but as of right now, I don't. Talk about a world of a difference. My God. So now we hop into a B58 car versus N55. Now I'm taking the B58 every single time. Obviously transmission, like I would have preferred a manual just from like the connection and the rawness of that. But the B58 platform is an incredible platform, especially for the money without going over to like an S55. I will say from like a styling and looks perspective, I really loved the way that the M2 looked. Front end is super aggressive on that car. I love how wide it is for how short of a car it is. I mean, the perfect platform would have been the B58 in the M2. That's just my opinion. And I know people will be like, oh, you could just get an M240, but the chassis is why you buy the M2. It has an incredibly wide, stable chassis. So just imagine this engine in a manual M2. That would have been so good. It would have been perfect, in my opinion. It would have been perfect. I haven't really been filming much on the Supra, but I've been driving the hell out of this car the past couple of weeks. I hadn't really given myself enough time to experience the Pure 800 in this car, and it's honestly just, it's insane. This car is just nuts right now. There are a couple of things that I want to do to this car in the near future. I want to get the Vorschlag camber plates for this car, so I can add a little bit more camber up front, and then I want to do some sway bars on it just to kind of stiffen it up, make it a little bit more stable. But yeah, man, if I hadn't bought this car, it would have been an M2 competition. And honestly, what it comes down to is, what kind of driver are you? What are you looking to get out of the car that you purchase? I think that the M2 competition and the Supra are around the same price. I honestly haven't checked M2 competition prices in quite a while because I'm not really in the market for one. But I think in the future it would be a great car to own. I would love to own an M2 comp in the future at some point. Honestly, if I were to experience the S55 platform, I think the M2 would be the best chassis to experience that engine in. As much as I love the F80 and the F82, I just feel like a lot of people have done that car. If you go on YouTube, the F80 platform is probably one of the most saturated platforms out there. There's so much content on the F80, and I think that that has a lot to do with how popular the car is. And now that like those 2015s and 16s are kind of dipping in prices, you can get them for relatively cheap, definitely less than what I bought this for. So you're seeing a lot of people build them up online, which is dope. It's good that we have a lot of content on these cars, but for me personally, I probably wouldn't build on the F80. I would try to do something a little bit different, and I feel like the M2 competition would probably be the better bet, just because there's not a ton of people building those online. But overall, I think the M2 in general is one of the, if not the best M car that you can buy for the money. And you really have to drive one of those cars. You have to drive one of those cars. You have to experience it for yourself, preferably in manual. That's just me. Compared to the Supra, the M2, they're not even comparable. They're just so different on so many levels. You've got the N55, you got the B58, you've got the automatic, you've got the manual. You've got completely different looking cars. They're just not the same. She is super clean, super duper clean. So I spent this week polishing out a couple of different scratches on the car. And so today I'm actually gonna re-ceramic coat this car. It's gonna take me a few hours. Yeah, this car was originally ceramic coated about a year ago. Before I had the E36 M3, I was driving the absolute crap out of this car. So some of the ceramic has started to fade and it just needs a fresh new application of ceramic. Dude, look at that black paint, it's so gorgeous on this car. Freaking immaculate. I also polished out a bit of the wing. She's been out in the sun a little bit, so it started to fade. Brought it back, polished it pretty good. I'm gonna ceramic coat that. And then also, as you guys know, I run a lot of ethanol in this car, and when you do that, it burns up any of the coating in the back. So the plastic, I'm gonna ceramic coat that, ceramic coat the whole rear end, and just kind of get her back into like a super hydrophobic state. The E36, I literally just ceramic coated it, and it's so easy to wash that car. So it's definitely time to apply a new layer onto this girl. Ceramium 5. So this is the stuff that I've been using by 5:30. Really good product. I recently did a video on the E36 M3 where I coated the entire car. And if you guys are interested in like how to do that step by step, definitely check out that video, but there will be a link in the description for this as well as a discount code for you guys. Good stuff, really, really good stuff. Like I said, I'm just gonna reapply it to the car. It's gonna take me a couple of hours because I need to do the entire car. But I did end up picking up a polisher finally and ended up polishing out a couple of little abrasions just from driving the car, just from having it be a car that I take out quite often. Normal like wear and tear stuff. So I am gonna re-hit this car with ceramic and it's gonna be insane. It already looks incredibly glossy, but this ceramic is gonna bring it back to life. And it especially makes your life 10 times easier when you are cleaning it. So that is going to wrap this one up today, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out today. Do I miss the M2? Sort of not. I wish it would have been an M2 comp. I probably would have missed it a little bit more. But look, if you're on a budget, like the M2 is hands down one of the best M cars that you can buy. I still highly recommend it to people because it's such a great platform and I learned so much on that car. Just from BMWs and like working on it, it is a fantastic car. Who knows, maybe I'll buy an M2 comp in the future. But I'm gonna get back to ceramic coating this car, finish that up. Make sure you guys check out that M240 sweepstakes with ECS tuning. You guys can win yourself a sick M240i. That is going until November 1st, and I'll also have that link down below. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. See you in the next one. Peace.